Oh, yeah, it's the sweet, sweet sounds of another episode of the Social Distance Drinking Club. The question today was more like hydrate or libate, and I chose to libate. Thank you guys for joining us. And a special thank you, because it is Veterans Day. A salute to our service members. Yes.
Hear, hear.
Cheers to them.
No one's insulted that I'm drinking a Truly, though, right?
I'm insulted that you called that libating.
It's hydrate and libate at the same time. That's all it is.
You know what? You're doing right by the Boston Beer Company, and good to you. Original Patriots, throwing it back.
At some point, I expect them to just send like a birthday check and just say like, "Hey, you know what? Thanks for saying nice things about our drinks."
Not until you learn how to hold the can right, like for the promo.
One day you're gonna get just a jumbo pack of Fleischmann's Active Dry Yeast from Jim Cook, and that's a deep cut joke, and I don't expect anybody to know what the hell I'm talking about.
Thank you guys for joining us. As always, we're gonna go around the room, find out what everyone's drinking. We've got a dear friend of mine, Chelsea Sutton from ConsultMent, it's a marketing agency, and she works with Hidden House and Brickyard. You guys have seen them on our show multiple times. Excited to have her on. We're going to talk about what makes us go back to the places we love to eat and drink. But before we do that, let's find out what everybody's drinking. And then I think Adam Green and Adam Ledford and Brett, you've set up a little something special as well.
Indeed.
Brett, what do you got?
Working through my strange pour from Wren House. Though I also have another treat on deck for round two. I started early, so I'm assuming I'm going to get round two.
I'm excited for that. Adam Green, coming to you.
Oh, that was out of order. The Imperial, also a Wren House beverage, working through this one. I don't have a round two lined up, but it's not far away if I need to get it.
Mr. Ledford.
I've been talking about it for a long time. It's finally back. Button Brew House, The Crusher. It's their Mexican-style lager. It is one of the best in the state, one of the best craft Mexican lagers that I have ever had. Thank you to Classy Alcoholic for hooking it up and introducing me in the first place. But this beer, Brett's.
That beer, Brett?
Oh, my.
I do miss having our masked luchador alcoholic on the show. We'll have to bring him back soon.
Instead, we just ask alcoholics, so it's, different.
I tried to get him to come on the show. He's actually he's fully stuffed and comatose on my couch right now because he's full of smoked wings. No, that's actually a true story. No, he's not tied up. He's just comatose from eating too many smoked chicken wings. But yeah, no, he is the reason why this exists right now. So
Threw the guy under the bus.
he didn't have any. He didn't have his luchador mask. It would be off-brand for him to show up as actual guy who you could recognize in public.
That's fair.
But it's his thing. His shtick is to wear the nice suits and no one knows what his face is. He's like Wilson, right? And like Home Improvement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Although the funny thing is that like if you're in Tucson, there's only like one really handsome Latino guy who dresses in nice suits all the time. So like it's the best non-disguise of all time. Because everybody in Tucson knows him, but I think nobody in Phoenix knows exactly who he is because they know him through social media.
You ruined it for me. Now I know who he is. I've never seen his face. You've ruined it.
You may have met him actually one time when we were at the Sleepy Whale. And I'll come like, hey, I know this guy because I have met Classy in person without the mask. So
Rarefied air, Adam Green. Rarefied air.
I'm special.
The Wilson of Tucson.
Gentlemen, you guys got some photos of some of our fans and friends who have served.
So we're fans of theirs. Like, let's be honest here.
Absolutely.
I'm going to throw them up.
For sure. Yeah. So obviously, great friend of the show, great friend of all of us, great human being, good man, Sam Frazier. Awesome dude. Got a chance to speak to him today, and he said he's taking it easy, but he was having a good one. He's reaching out to a friend's family that he loved, and we're reaching right back out to you, Sam. Thank you for your service. We love you, brother.
Indeed.
Yep, what he said.
And an older photo of Mr. Chris Macbeth, who's a huge fan of the show and also a lot of fun to have comments to read from. An old photo. It's only 2 years old, I'm sure. He looks the same now.
Identical.
And
there's a boat in the background of many of his photos now, though. That's really the only difference that I can see.
He's living the dream now. He's got 2 boats. And we got the photos of Saul, right? He was with us on Sunday.
Yeah. You want me to throw those up there?
Oh, there you go.
He looks nice. In that photo. Yeah.
He was so much nicer on Sunday.
I mean, this looks more like the Saul we know, hanging out in a bucket hat.
He's less blurry in real life, though.
And a solid profile picture, too. That one especially.
That's hardcore.
Rambo Saul. Saul Rambo. Oh.
I'm sorry. What just happened? I was a second away from introducing Chelsea, and I think I just saw like a puppet mask go behind you.
Is there a furry convention going on?
No, so the classy alcoholic, he's a man of many moods.
My question is, assuming he didn't bring that mask with him, why would
he looks more like the catty alcoholic in that.
I feel like I'm in a shitty SNL sketch and I can't keep it together right now. But that was unexpected. I had no idea it was happening.
I did not either. No, my daughter had the cat costume from last year's Halloween, and I guess there was a little conspiracy happening off screen.
I have so many questions. Like, why does your daughter's cat costume fit a grown adult? Great question.
This is a rabbit hole that we could go down for a while, I think, and I'm not sure we'll like what we find.
I'm really hoping it happens again, like that video that they tell people to watch and see how many times the basketball has been passed around and a gorilla just walks through it.
I'm with you.
No one's going to notice.
We have to create more action on the screen and run distractions for that.
I'm going to introduce Chelsea because I want her input on this because she's been sitting backstage watching this happen, I'm sure. Chelsea, thank you for joining us.
I feel like, might I say, that level of an introduction, there's no way I could live up to that. Like a cat walking behind you. Like I can't live up to that. I just can't.
The best part about it all, I think, is, Ledford, you can answer this. You noticed it when you saw it on the screen happening behind you, right? Like you had no idea until it just came across.
Yeah, no, it was total inception. I was watching the wall of guitars as I frequently do, and all of a sudden, floating cat head came by, and I was like, no. Now, Chelsea, you are making a splendid introduction though, because it is very rare that somebody will take the time to fully match hair color with wardrobe, and we appreciate that.
You know, I did it just for you guys, just for you.
Thank you.
I also would like to note that I matched my hair with my shirt with the banners of the show. So yeah, like
sometimes things happen for a reason. Chelsea, tell us a little bit about yourself, please. Introduce yourself to everybody.
Other than the fact that I like wild hair colors. So my name is Chelsea. I am the founder and CEO of ConsultMent, which is a marketing agency here in Phoenix. We create marketing teams for purpose-driven brands. So part of the reason that I know Yusuf and some of the guys is through some of the restaurants that we work with. So we operate as the marketing director and marketing team for the Brickyard downtown and the Hidden House. both are huge fans of the show. So thank you guys for your continued support of the industry. I'm also an adjunct marketing instructor. So I teach marketing here at some of the local universities, which is super fun. And of course, absolutely adore the food and bev industry. And man, we are in a crazy time. So super excited to be chatting with you guys and talking about it a little bit.
It has been a crazy time. We didn't ask you what you were drinking. What are you drinking?
Ooh, I am drinking a Sonoma County Pinot Noir from Valravn, which is, it was a gift to me. Let me see if you guys can see that label. There we go. Yeah, super good. And I'm quite a ways through the bottle, so no promises on how the rest of this episode's gonna go.
Well, I mean, when you started teaching today, like if you had class, then this should go great.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, I have to keep my glass off screen when I'm teaching, but now I don't, so I feel liberated. I feel like I'm existing in freedom here, so thank you.
I figure if you put a straw into a wine glass, then it's totally fine to do that while you're teaching, as long as there's.
That's a very, very. I believe that. Yes, wholeheartedly. I don't know if my administrators would, but I believe that.
Well, let's go ahead.
I was just going to say, Chelsea, right off the bat, like I'm an adult college student, basically, and everything in the last 6 months has been like, well, in econ, everything's different now. In finance, everything's different now. And like basically in any business discipline, everything's different now, including marketing, including branding. Like what, when you're doing your classes, like how difficult is it to pivot in a world where suddenly like there are no recipes and there are no formula anymore? Where did you find your success in pivoting into the new reality that we're in?
That's a great question. So just to be clear, are you asking me about pivoting in the teaching aspect or actually pivoting in the food and bev space?
I was going to say in the teaching aspect, just because that's so close to mind for me right now.
Sure. I'm sure we'll talk about the food and bev space too, but from the teaching standpoint of things, honestly, like I am probably a little bit of a unique instructor in the sense that I truly believe that as a university instructor, right at university level, we shouldn't be teaching people facts and figures. We should be teaching students how to think and how to process and how to challenge thoughts. And especially from a marketing standpoint, I can't just teach like, here's the formula, right? Because it's been different 3 years ago, and it's been different 5 years ago, and it's been different 15 years ago. So from that standpoint, like there's some fun to it because I come from that perspective already. Sorry, you guys are hearing my crazy puppy.
Is that your puppy? Hold on, we need puppy cam.
We need puppy cam. Come on.
No, she's gone now. She'll come back. Don't worry. But so I already kind of came from that perspective of like throw what's really happening in front of them, teach them the basics, teach them where, the marketing stuff came from, right? The beginnings of the marketing world. But we talk so much about current events. Like my favorite time to teach social media marketing is in the spring because the Super Bowl is going on, right? And what happens around marketing in the Super Bowl, both from the commercial side of things like Super Bowl commercials, but also the other marketing stuff that happens around the Super Bowl, is a great time to talk about, is this stuff effective? Is it falling short? Like what else is there going on that we as consumers don't pay attention to, right? Like we see the commercials, but we don't see the other $100,000 worth of ad spend that they've been doing for a month behind that commercial, right? So on and so forth. So in some regard, I think I was a little bit already prepared for this in ways that other instructors weren't. Like when I talk to, politics or econ or math, right, or science, some of them had a really hard time shifting and pivoting. And for me, I mean, other than changing my curriculum, because obviously we switched classroom, formats, the rest of it is kind of business as usual in terms of the way I'm teaching them, because we're really just talking about what's happening right now and how we have to think about that as consumers when we are the ones marketing.
Now,
does a situation like this though kind of, you can't teach for the now necessarily because if anything now has shown that things can change, just like that.
100%. I think the two things that I have leaned on in terms of being able to continue to teach, and this applies both to the university students, and I hold a lot of workshops for business owners and, marketing managers and that kind of stuff, for them to implement from a marketing standpoint. So this applies to both groups students and business owners. It all to me, marketing comes back to business strategy first, which is about what problem is your business solving, and then how well do you know your customer. And those two things, your problem might change over time, and your customers' needs and wants are going to change. So to your point, our customers' needs right now are very different than they were 6 and 12 months from now, and are going to be very different than they are, 6, 12 months from now. So it's really about how do we continue to get to know our customer? How can we use technology, social media, digital marketing, that kind of stuff to get to know our customer, because what we know of them now is not going to be the same. So yeah, there's definitely some stuff in there that is about teaching them how to pivot over time.
You bring up a good point, and it's something that I've thought about and something I want to talk about here in a second, more in depth. But the way we as consumers approach going out nowadays is much different than it was in the past. And the way restaurateurs and business owners approach how their customers are taken into their businesses has completely changed. So the formula has changed. Is it permanent? Is it constantly evolving now because of how things are?
Yes. Yes. Yes, it is.
Yes. The answer is yes. Is it permanent? Yes.
Come on, you don't ask yes or no questions. Leading questions, man. Leading.
Then how have you, let's take, for example, Hidden House and Brickyard. I've seen how everything has changed there, but let's take, for example, those two spots. How have things changed in terms of the way you guys market yourselves to your clients?
That's been a unique challenge. I would like to say that I'm blessed in the sense that I have great clients who refer me well. And so it's really nice to be able to, work with good people. They refer me to other good people, and that keeps us plenty busy. So I honestly, through COVID, I haven't done a ton of external marketing of our services, but I will say, there's still some level of marketing, right? Because when you're talking to a new company that you've never worked with or a new brand that you've never worked with, there's some layer of marketing still goes in that. I have to understand what they need now, which is different than what they needed 6 and 12 months ago. And this is slightly tangential, but certainly will speak to this question. One of the most challenging, I'll use this as a specific example. One of the most challenging things that I've gone through as, the marketing strategist for restaurant brands is being in this space during COVID when, restaurants are open, right? We're at 50% capacity, but we can have diners in the restaurant. But we also know that even people who absolutely love us, right, have already gotten to know our brand, already know and love our experience. There is some portion of those people who are not comfortable or are not as comfortable coming in to dine as they used to be. And so that's unique, right? Because not only have our wants of our customers changed, but they've segmented, right? The group of people that knew and love us and would come in twice a week are now 5 different groups, right? That all have 5 different comfort levels for coming in or staying or whatever. And so finding that balance, for example, from June to even now, we're still very much in this marketing that we are open and positioning our brand for whatever we are super known for, right? So in the Brickyard's case, really creative, unique cocktails, right? We're posting and talking about ingredients, and we're talking about really cool parts of it. But we're being sensitive about the fact that there is still 20 to 30 market out there that's not comfortable coming in. And so although we want to talk to them and communicate to them and share with them, we don't want to really in your face, right? Hey, we're here, we're open, come in, because they're still staying home and being cautious, right? About not catching COVID. And so that's a specific restaurant example, but it certainly applies for me on my business side of things in terms of understanding that those customer needs are, yes, they've changed, but they've changed, they've segmented themselves, right? And how do we market that we're open, we're here for you, we love you, but for those of you that aren't comfortable, we're not going to push you, right? We're not going to be in your face. We're not going to be unsafe. And that's certainly true from on the business side, right? I'm talking to other restaurants or other brands, and part of what I'm talking about is, do you even know what your customers are wanting and feeling right now? Because you knew them really well 6 months ago, but they've broken on groups and they've segmented themselves, and do you really know what they want? We can help you figure that out, and then we can help you figure out how to talk to them in a way that aligns with your brand.
Yeah. Chelsea, in 2020 COVID times, as somebody that works with a lot of F&B clients, marketing, you kind of touched on that, how you make your customer feel, what do they really want? It seems to me that a lot of marketing these days almost can be marketing what safety procedures you're doing to be able to draw people in. Is that what you're kind of seeing with a lot of restaurants and bars?
That is certainly a part of it. There's a fine line with that too. We're learning, right? Because there is, and I'm sure you guys have probably felt this on the show, there is a segment of people who are still on high alert, whether they are in the susceptible category, they're living with someone in the susceptible category, they've lost COVID for whatever the reason, right? They're still on high alert. For those people, they still want to see your diligence. They want to see your messaging. They want to see some of that. Then there's this big group of people who know about it, respect that we all have to work around COVID, but they're kind of over it, right? Like they're over talking about it. They're over hearing about it. They're going to deal with it. They're going to wear the mask. They're going to do their stuff, right? So then there's this big group of those people. And then there's the people who are, the anti-maskers that just think it's a whole conspiracy theory, right? Those are with the wind because we're not worried about those anyways. But there's a unique balance between the people who are still on high alert, want to see and hear about the things that you're doing, and the people who are like, yo, I'm following the rules, I'm doing the things, but like I'm kind of getting back to life. And there's a fine balance between over marketing the like COVID cautious stuff, because we don't want to perpetuate fear, right? We don't want to perpetuate, the negativity or the discomfort that comes with that, or be, a traumatic like point of awareness, but we still want people to be comfortable with what we're doing. So a lot of that is very brand to brand unique. The brands that are being overly diligent and doing all the things, and you feel it when you walk in, we're taking a little bit more of a forward stance with that. The brands that are being cautious, but they're also being casual, we take a more casual marketing stance with that. So I always try to align the marketing messaging with that. And then visuals help a lot too, right? Like I found that we don't have to necessarily all the things that we're doing, right? Tell people that we're doing this and we're taking temperatures, whatever. But if you show pictures of a bartender pouring a drink and he's wearing a mask, right? Or a server carrying a plate to a table and they're wearing their gloves, then subliminally, the people that care, they see that, right? They're paying attention to that. So we're trying to do a lot of that so that the message is there without, COVID's still a thing, right? So.
Well, and I think, so this is a great way to transition into a question I wanted to ask today. And it's not only how we engage customers.
Oh, I think you said froze for a second.
Did I freeze over here? Did I green freeze? Did I lose you guys?
I hear you.
Okay.
I thought we're all in on. We're just gonna like be silent and making sure.
You guys made it awkward. But to transition from talking about how customers get approached and how restaurants are approaching things during COVID, it's getting people back into restaurants right now, but also what makes us go back to restaurants. And I think this is a blanket question that could be asked anytime, pandemic or not, and an important one. What makes you want to go back to the places you love to eat and drink? And this is a question I want to ask to our audience as well. For those of you watching, tell us a story of a meal you had, a dish that makes you want to drive across town. What makes you want to go back? And then from a marketing perspective, how do you look at this?
Do you guys want to answer first what makes you go back to restaurants before I answer the marketing aspect?
First and foremost for me, I think that the biggest thing is it's hospitality, right? It's still the hospitality industry. I traveled for a living and still hopefully will when this pandemic is over. Average of 100,000 miles a year. So I spent a lot of time in hotels and a lot of restaurants and a lot of airplanes. And it's just the way you get treated, and it's the service. That's number one, first and foremost. I can have a mediocre, how dare you? How dare you privilege check me right now? I can have a mediocre meal and still enjoy myself if the service is good. Yes.
Sure. I could have a mediocre meal at this fancy restaurant on my travels, but if the service was still good, I might go back the next time I travel again, which will happen because I travel a lot.
It's not my fault that you stay home.
Hey, Adam Green, I love what you're saying, but also let's reinforce use this real point here. Like, what kind of service you can get on a Tuesday or on a Thursday, that's hilarious.
That's really good.
You know, what can happen at different days, you know, depending on volume, depending on whether you're going on peak or off peak, depending on so many factors. Your meal at the same restaurant can be the exact pinnacle of what chef designed it to be, or it can be 10 degrees off because of a hungover line cook, or because of like peak volume and like you just can't quite execute it the same way that you want to. There's so many factors, but service should never suffer. And service can bridge the gap between great and superlative in a way that nothing else can. So I'm all in with Yusuf on this.
Yeah.
What do you think, guys? That was my number one for sure. And obviously number two is going to be like, shit's got to taste real good. I don't care if it's a drink or food, but it's got to be good. But
I mean, I think I would say I look for the experiential element, which I think service is a part of that. But also I think sometimes service, if it's, I don't like a really aggressive hospitality service, like very pampered to thing, like that makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't need to be like spoiled. I like authentic service, I guess maybe would be the way I would try to put it. And I think there's an art to coming off as authentic in the service industry. But I think that the whole point of going out somewhere and wanting to go back to it is the experience, which I think encapsulates the food or drink quality and the environment and how you're treated, I guess, is almost more, maybe how you're treated is different from service, I guess, in my mind. I'm kind of parsing that down a little bit.
Brett, have you ever seen the graph, and it talks about like the economic stratification of how you view food? Basically at your like lower income levels, the idea is security, right? Like you have enough to eat. Mm-hmm. And then at the middle class, or you know, however you want to 1, 2, 3, 4 it, not necessarily middle class by any other definition, but the next tier up is your quality. You start selecting higher quality red meats and more marbled beefs and things like that. And at the upper echelons of where people view food is presentation, whether they're at home or whether they're in a restaurant environment. And that's how we rank what it means to have a good meal.
I was halfway waiting for this to turn into a privilege check still, but Beer Bob, thanks for joining us, watching the show. For me, it's going out and seeing familiar faces, supporting the people you have relationships with and care about. Those relationships come from that service, in my opinion. You make relationships because
that's kind of circular, right? Like you go into the places and you realize like you go to the place that you had a good time, and service, like absolutely there are places that I will not go back to. The food was fine, the service was terrible, and maybe they had an off night that night. Like that could be like people have bad days. We all have them. That's how I remember the place was the service was bad. And there's so many other options that I will go to. Like, hey, service is good. Like you can find good food in most places. They weren't good at making food, but it's those extra things that make the experience that make you decide you want to go back.
Don't get me wrong. I've got stories of places that have complete garbage service and delicious food, and I still go back. But Chelsea,
we all don't have those options, Yusuf, that many times to go out in various places.
Sorry.
Poor Adam Green. Poor Adam Green.
Chelsea, if you take yourself out of the professional marketing shoes for a moment and think about what made you want to go back to some of the places that you frequent, tell us about
that. It's hard to take myself out of those shoes, but even in the shoes, it applies mostly because I like my shoes. Have you seen my shoes? Hey, for me, I think it goes. This is so cliche, right? Considering what I just was talking about a few minutes ago, but it's about what you're going for, right? So I 1000% agree with the idea of experience and atmosphere and service. Like for me, at the end of the day, those kind of are at the top of the list 90% of the time, but I thought about this question before we popped on, and I even asked my husband, who obviously dines with me quite a bit. And what was interesting was we both like shared 2 or 3 different stories, and they all spoke to different aspects of the food and dining scene. So like if we're going to the hole in the wall backwoods of North Carolina spot because we know they have bomb barbecue for $10 a plate, I'm going expecting that, so live up to my expectation, right? Like, I don't need your service to be phenomenal because I'm there for the, for the barbecue, right? On the flip side, if I'm going somewhere for a date night, then I want the experience and the ambiance and the service to be that. Even within that, and this is what was interesting coming out of me and Travis's conversation, my husband's conversation earlier, both of us, like, I was like, okay, what was your pinnacle dining experience? And I was thinking about one of my pinnacle dining experiences. Both of them were at relatively high-end places, but he mentioned one where the service and the atmosphere was next level. People were very attentive. They were very educational. They taught us about the food that we were eating. It was very farm to table, blah, 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 right? Presentation was great. Michelin star chef, so on and so forth. For me, I was thinking about, this is so cliche, but I was thinking about the night that I got.
Sorry, I'm really enjoying the fact that no one has privilege checked her yet. Excuse me, gentlemen, this is an equal opportunity privilege check show.
Right.
I was looking for the banner, to be fair. I couldn't find
You
it.
mentioned Michelin star chef and high-end restaurant like 3 times. Just put it out there.
Well, so my last example, though, is the day that my husband proposed, and we were also at oh god, now I can't remember it. House of Tricks. We were at House of Tricks in Tempe. But here is what they did so well, right? They're great with service. They're always on top of it, blah, blah, blah. But that day, and I don't know that he communicated to them what, that he was going to propose at the end of the meal, but they were very hands-off, right? Like, they were not aggressive. They did not spend a lot of time at the table. They didn't try and, upsell us on huge bottles of wine. Like, it was very simple service, right? And I needed that day because clearly, like, Travis was building up to a proposal and blah, blah, blah. I couldn't tell you what we ate. I couldn't tell you that our service was really that great. Like, the food was good because it always is. But, like, they read the scenario and they realized that we weren't asking a lot of questions about the menu. We weren't, trying to figure out a whole bunch of things about wine or cocktails or whatever. And so they read the situation and gave us what we needed in that moment, which was actually more space, right? And then it obviously set the stage for a really great proposal. So, yeah.
It sounds like a know your audience kind of moment.
Yes.
We're figured out. We're working on it, guys. I promise. Just let us know.
No, I definitely want to follow up on that. I always get mirrored.
I know, me too. Me too.
Yeah, no, the idea of anticipatory service, like, that's the pinnacle. And, like, it doesn't have to be the highest end, but, like, Brett, to your point, if you get if you feel discomfort when somebody's like overly, like, in your face and, like, checking out too often and too frequently, like, the best restaurants, you'll never know that you were about to be uncomfortable because they've already read that. Exactly to Chelsea's point, like, that it never gets better than that to me. It's like, I'm not the most strategic guy, so sometimes I realize I, like, have fallen into a situation where afterwards I'm like, I got played. Like, I got out-thunked before I even realized that there was a chess match. But the best restaurant experiences are like that. You walk out going like, holy shit, they took care of me like 5 layers deeper than I even knew that I wanted that. That's where it's at.
Plus, you were like, I got these prizes and I still have all these tickets left over.
They didn't even charge me for the last Jolly Rancher. How did they even stay in business?
And now we know why you're a huge fan of Chuck E. Cheese. Thank you.
Animatronics. You had me at animatronics.
But they have a mean cheese slice, okay? Don't hate.
I can't
remember.
By the way,
that was the perfect time for a classy alcoholic in a cat costume to just
keep walking by.
Where was he?
They have a mean cheese slice.
Animatronics. I mean, just.
I realized exactly what he reminded me of earlier, and it was Taco from the old TV show The League, in the Tickle My Tummy, whatever the hell his name was, the character he had that he put the suit on for Christmas time and scared the kid.
Elmo? Oh my God, yeah.
Cat costume. Just.
Good talk. Thank you. Chelsea, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but right now, for those of you who are paying attention to the news, we saw that it was a ruling from a judge, right, that came out and said to-go bottles isn't a thing, or to-go alcohol was the misinterpretation a lot of us had when we were talking today. But I saw people talking about how this was affecting their businesses, certain business owners that I'm friends with on Facebook or Instagram, and how that was going to affect their bottom line during this time. I want to talk a little bit about that, because obviously you guys, I say you guys, but like your clients had that going for them for a while. We brought them home and had them on the show. So
yeah, me too. Mm-hmm.
How does that affect these businesses? And actually, since you know a little bit more about it than I do, I'd love for you to kind of explain it and clear the air, because all day I've heard 6 different stories about this.
Sure. So the long and the short of it is, back in the summer, Ducey put out an executive order shutting down bars that weren't serving food and allowing restaurants that did serve food to stay open, and extended the ability for them to sell liquor off premises, or to be consumed off premises. And it was a little bit hot then, because obviously bars with different series licenses didn't want to be shut down, but it stood and it stayed in place. What happened was, and obviously I'm not a lawyer, so this is the summary. A handful of bars brought a suit against Ducey saying that, number one, he couldn't shut them down because that was discriminatory, or shutting some down because of their license and others not, and to allow for those who don't have a license to sell off-premise liquor, when others that have paid for a license more expensive so that they can sell liquor off premises, right? That's illegal. Well, what was interesting, and I'm now, so the article came out on AZ Central yesterday or today about it, like as a summary of the court case, right? Explaining what was going on. And the article and the journalist who wrote it they were a little bit vague, frankly, because the case itself was vague. And, if you weren't literally following it word for word or line by line, it might have been hard to follow. And so in the article, it references to-go liquor is no longer allowed, to-go spirits is no longer allowed, unless, of course, you have one of those licenses. Well, when you dig into it and you actually read the court case, and more specifically, we actually talked today, and I have this specific so that I could give it to you guys directly from the mouth of our liquor rep with the state. Basically, what was said in the court case, what was addressed was liquor sold by the bottle in the manufacturer's original bottle. So that is what they legally banned, or they rather took back the ability for Series 11 or 12s to continue to sell.
So realistically, this doesn't necessarily affect how to-go cocktails work, or like stuff that's batched and sold.
Right. Only because per our liquor rep, that is only because it wasn't specifically brought up in the case. So because specifically, to-go cocktails, right, mixed drinks that are, as long as they're sealed, and because that wasn't brought up in the case, it legally is still allowed. That was not taken, out of that executive order. So for now, literally, this is their words, in sum, at least for now, to-go sales of original manufacturer's sealed containers for Series 11 and 12s are no longer legal. Obviously granted an appeal, which nobody's really expecting Ducey to do, but batched cocktails, or cocktails that are made not in manufacturer's original seal, are still allowed. To me, that also says, like, this whole thing also says we all knew it was a matter of time, right? Like, we all knew that.
Well, I think that's the thing, is we have to consider, a lot of people may not take into consideration that you've got separate licenses that businesses hold. So you've got Series 6 licenses, Series 12 licenses. One of them's $1,500 and the other one's like $175,000. So there were some rules that were added in here, and like some, there was bending of said rules that probably devalued those 6-figure licenses.
Yes. Yes. And I think that's ultimately why the case was brought at the time that it's brought, because we're right now at a spot in time where the bars that are completely shut down, right, those Series 6s, et cetera, are pushing, because they're like, yo, if I can't make any money, like, what's the point, right? Like, I have rent to pay, I have all of these things. And the courts I tried to read through the court case. I probably got through about a third of it, and the legal jargon is, insane. But the point in which the judge was making, or the plaintiff rather was making in multiple cases, is that those bars are still shut down, right? So allowing series 11 and 12s to continue to sell to-go cocktails is not taking business away from those others because they're still shut down, which was an interesting argument. So I don't necessarily, you're right. I don't personally have an opinion on any of that. I think the whole thing is like messy and dicey, but I will say this from the perspective of a business who already sold cocktails in-house, right? To be able to sell those now off-premise, I don't think that we've gained many customers because we're now able to do that, but I certainly do know for sure that the customers who knew us and loved us and already would buy our cocktails in-house are definitely buying them to go or buying them to go when they're not comfortable coming in, right?
I was one of them.
Me too, literally. Like, I have bought multiple cocktails from my restaurant, so yeah.
You're muted, buddy.
Oh, I'm here. Sorry.
Too much time eating chicken and drinking with Classy that you muted yourself. You're off the rails right now.
You have to protect against the inevitable when Classy's here. So the auto mute was just kind of a self-protection. Anyway, what I was going to say is that Brett's going to call me out on the whole like econ concept that I'm about to espouse. But for a lot of businesses, the whole decision to stay in business at all or shut down completely is whether or not you can yeah, he did. It's whether or not you can actually make enough money to cover slightly more than the cost of having someone there running the cash register. Because anything that you can make above that, anything you can make above your variable costs, and I promise that's as nerdy as I'm going to get, at least chips away at your fixed costs. Did it again. Like it chips away at your rent, and it chips away at the stuff, like the license that you already paid for and that everyone already paid for. If you can make $1 above what it costs to pay somebody to be there, then you should make that $1, because that's the difference between restaurants we know and love being in business 6 months from now or not. So I am very torn as far as like any kind of limitations or prescriptions on any kind of to-go right now. It's a lot of water cooler talk in the craft beer sector is that craft beer doesn't have enough lobbying power. A sub-$1 billion industry has nothing on the $5 billion restaurant association that can actually get in there and just throw weight around and make things happen overnight. So if the restaurants want this, if they can achieve some sort of cohesion, they can get this. It's a dollars and cents argument based on the power of their lobbying.
I'm excited to see if Phoenix turns into a New Orleans. Can I get a drive-through Mai Tai and just roll through their streets? Is that okay?
To quote Adam Ledford, they can get this.
To your point, Yusuf, there's two things. First of all, I was watching some of the Facebook comments, and to Brett, who asked about my shoes, these were the pair from today.
Oh, those are dope.
Oh, hold on a second. We need to see those. This was Brett's comment earlier. And yeah, there they are.
Yeah.
So it's on brand, but I know you well. So
also to your comment about New Orleans, we have kind of seen this, right? Because like downtown Chandler, for example. Oh, hey.
Saul Bookman joined us on Sunday for the show. Saul, I hope you come back with some blue hair. And by blue hair, I mean, I hope there's something just blue on your head, because I don't remember seeing much hair, just a hat.
Yeah, Saul, if you do that, please tag me. Please. No, but to your point about New Orleans, right? Like some parts of the city are playing with that. Like downtown Chandler started a dine in the park thing where they got liquor exemption. So like you can go and drink, well, I shouldn't say liquor. You can drink beer and wine in the park, I don't think there's as many people taking advantage of this as could be, but cities are trying to do it. So,
well, how come? One of the things that I don't understand in COVID time, I know some municipalities have loosened regulations around like easements and serving food and drink farther out or out into the street and like sacrificing parking spaces. Because to the point of what you were talking about earlier, I think most people feel much more comfortable. Like outdoors is the secret sauce for getting people to feel comfortable. Now we are at that point in Arizona, right?
I'm so glad you brought up sacrificing parking spaces, because you kind of teed her up for one of the things I was going to mention. And she's excited about it.
Yeah. I'm waiting though. I'm waiting.
No. Well, I mean, now I don't even know where my question was going. More, I guess, on such things.
That's what happens when you start early.
I'll ask the question a little bit differently, because my friend came to see me from California, and he drove in from Long Beach last night. He's here staying with me at my house, and we went out earlier today, and he was shocked to see what I'm sure Chelsea is going to mention in a moment, that we didn't have people using up their parking spaces in front of their restaurants and bars as outdoor dining space, and expanding out in that way, because people are more comfortable, whether it's, just kind of this placebo kind of, theater for them, security theater rather, or not. They just feel more comfortable outside. And also, we're spoiled that it's Arizona, so these are our 3 or 4 months where it's not 114 degrees.
Yes.
But it has happened, and it has happened at a place that we know and love. I was outside of the Brickyard, and I saw it. So
yes, it's happening. It is happening as we speak. So I know the city of Chandler has given a temporary permit. By temporary, it's good until May of next year. So temporary, but a temporary permit, right, for the Brickyard downtown to kind of be a pilot restaurant for trying this exact thing. So in downtown Chandler, for those of you guys that are familiar, there's street parking throughout most of downtown. And in particular, Chandler has prided itself on being easy to park, easy to transition through. So they are not taking away driving space. So you'll still be able to drive, both ways, but all the parking spaces in front of is the guinea pig right now. So we are building a 30-foot deck literally out front of the restaurant. And for those of you guys that have been to the Brickyard, like the Brickyard's teeny tiny, and that's been a serious struggle with COVID. The big restaurants like the Hidden House, for example, we've got 10 times the capacity of the Brickyard, right? We can seat 250 pre-COVID. The Brickyard can seat 90 pre-COVID. And then when you put 6-foot distance plus a 50% capacity, you're talking about 32, 35 seats. So when you talk about, like we were talking about fixed costs and variable costs earlier, 30 seats is hard to do it. But when you add street dining, and yes, there's the outside nature of things, and there's a little bit more space and there's more air and there's all those things. So we're testing it, and we are hoping to have it open within the next week. So that's super exciting. And then depending on how the community receives it and, traffic and all that stuff, we've had it almost hit a few times. So we're working on making sure that doesn't happen, because I think people in Arizona are paying less attention than they are in some other cities. But I do think that it's coming for the rest of, the Phoenix metro at large. And it's just a matter of who's gonna get on the wave quick. And like, we're in it now, right? It's patio season for sure.
Oh yeah, and I was trying to pull up a photo because I've committed a faux pas. I went out and didn't take a photo of something, so I don't have one of that patio.
I have. They're dark. They're at night. But if you go to the Brickyard's Instagram, we posted one. It's in a carousel, so it's not the first image, but it's like the second or third, probably a post or two ago.
Okay.
Yusuf, if you went somewhere, didn't take a picture nor post it to Instagram, did it really happen?
I don't know. I don't know if it did. It might be.
Just quick question. I just want to make sure I heard you right. City of Chandler did a temporary pilot for one restaurant that ends in May, or that runs through May for this?
So other restaurants can apply for the permit. We were not the only ones able to apply for the permit. Just to my knowledge, we were the only ones that did. So anyone in Chandler can apply for the permit and therefore be granted, the ability to build street dining. We just wanted to be the first one to apply and the first one to invest in the funds to do it. And I say we were the pilot only because obviously in the permit process, you're talking and working with the city. And we particularly had to push the city. Gavin, who owns the Brickyard, went to city council, like he, petitioned for the fact that like our community will support this, right? This isn't just about making more money. This is about creating dining space that the community wants to have. We will be your guinea pig, right? Like, pass the permit, will be the guinea pig. So others absolutely can get a permit and build, and I think they will as soon as they.
Well, it makes a lot of sense too. Like, I've been to San Diego a couple of times over the summer, like during COVID, for my fiance's birthday, my birthday last month, and they had street dining. And like, we were talking about the different groups of people, different diners early. And like, we'll go out, but certainly outside is where we want to be. We don't want to dine inside yet. We're not there. But we felt totally comfortable doing that outside in San Diego. And I guess, knock on wood, we've done it safely each time we've gone. But I know Arizona during the summer, you can't really do outdoor dining. So like, now would be the time for all these businesses, if they weren't thinking about this, like, it seems like it can work as long as the city's willing to give them that space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for the businesses who physically have that space, right? I mean, there's tons of restaurants across the city that don't have street parking, right? So they're in a different scenario. But for the businesses that do, I think it's a no-brainer. I think what made us different is, yes, the summer heat, right? So none of us were thinking about getting people outside in the heat of the summer. And the fact that our restaurants were able to open up and had 50% capacity allowed the restaurants to open up, right? Whereas I was in Temecula not long ago, and they were still physically closed. Like, they could not see people inside. So, something that I talk about all the time in the classroom is that desperation breeds innovation, right? When you're forced to not be able to do something, you figure out another way to do it. Well, Phoenix restaurants could open to some degree, so they didn't jump on the street dining bandwagon as quick as California.
Yeah. It's such a nice way to adapt if they're able to do it, especially, like, again, like from now until, I guess, probably not necessarily till May, it'll get hot, but this is the time to do it in Arizona. And hopefully people will do that, business will do that, and allow them to kind of be more profitable than they would have been otherwise. Because I know we can still do indoor dining, but things could obviously change. We know that it's a time of COVID, but outdoor dining seems to be a thing that most places are doing, and doing it safely. If we can have the space to do it, now's the time.
We're spoiled. So, like, pandemic or no pandemic, I consider outdoor dining something that I think we have this beautiful window for in Arizona. And it's nice to see things like this changing, because some of them might become semi-permanent or permanent, maybe temporary. But I'm excited for what's happening outside of Brickyard, because I think it is setting the stage for other restaurants to do that now, and utilize that space to create outdoor dining space that makes people feel comfortable. Because at the end of the day, people got to go to work.
Exactly. We got a shout out from Mr. Lorenzo Lucas, who also wants to let everybody know, if they didn't already, Chelsea is a rock star.
That's a fact.
Good to see you, Lorenzo. Thanks for tuning in, buddy.
We've done some cool campaigns with Lorenzo. He's been super supportive of our concepts. So yeah, I also want to speak to, this is like going back a few topics, but yes, cheers. When we were talking about the to-go cocktail thing, right? And like whether that's good, and continuing to support and allowing for restaurants to make some more, make a little bit more profit. The other thing that is really been great for is upping the ticket price, upping the ticket total, so that even on to-go orders, so that our service staff are getting bigger tips, right? So like, one of the things that so many people are forgetting about is the fact that 50% capacity means that 50% less people are coming into the restaurants, right? And so even though we're full or we're on a wait, doesn't mean that our service staff are making as much in tips as they were 6 or 12 months ago. And so one of the things that I've seen that honestly brings a lot of like emotional encouragement, in addition to obviously money in their pockets, is the generosity in people's tips. Well, when you take a $50 or $60 to-go dinner and you put 2 or 3 or 4 cocktails on that, and now it's $100 or $110 dinner, that tip changes, right? And so the service staff are feeling that so much more. And so from that standpoint, right, it's been a good support to the people that are working for our restaurants too.
You guys see that, like, even tipping on carryout orders? Because like, normally when I'd go out and order carryout anywhere, I wouldn't tip much at all. I mean, a little bit if I knew the place. But now it's like, anytime I go to do a carryout, I'm tipping. Not only am I tipping, but I'm tipping way more than I would have normally done. Is that kind of something that's being noticed all around?
Yeah, it is. It's tapered off a little bit, to be honest, but it's still there. It's there stronger than it was pre-COVID. And it was super strong through the shutdown, but it stayed pretty strong. I mean, people that are ordering to go, they're conscious of it for sure. Very conscious and being quite generous. And that's why I mentioned like the emotional support. Like there's been some days that have been like, I've physically been in the restaurant, they're helping with some things, and you just have, one of those days where whether it's because nobody's ordering or you just get a handful of super rude guests that don't want to wear their mask or get their temperature, whatever the thing is, right, that just gets you down and out, and then somebody orders $50 to go and leaves you a $25 or a $50 tip, like that just changes your day. So, yeah.
Chelsea, I think we could have this conversation for hours. I want you to come back another time, please, if you have the time for it. It's exciting to have you here. But before we wrap up, I want to go back to how we started the show, and just a salute to our service members. Happy Veterans Day, and a couple of special people, especially because everybody loves Bobby's dreamy eyes, but some of you guys don't know Henry's sexy chin. I don't know. I mean,
are we ready for this? Hang on, we need Brett here if we're gonna ogle over Bobby here.
Oh, definitely, since he loves that guy. But
come on.
How do you see his dreamy eyes when they have sunglasses on? There
we're getting there.
Is this better, boys?
Much better.
A salute to them as well.
Sexy eyes.
A salute to them as well for serving this beautiful country that we live in, and also serving us some freaking awesome drinks.
Indeed. Can I plug some awesome drinks that they're working on right now? So we have not released, I really probably shouldn't be telling you guys, but this is obviously sneak peek for your audience. We haven't released this to the public yet, but we are launching an 8-course dinner that will have cocktail pairings in December. That obviously Bobby is at the helm of leading the drink side of, and he is doing, you guys, him and Michael Reagan are collaborating on it, and we're collaborating with a handful of different chefs across the valley from the Phoenix Cookbook, and it'll be an 8-course dinner. And the freaking drink ideas, like I was in an R&D session with them last week, and I literally was like, I freaking love what I do for a living, right? Because they are working on just some next level between like infusions and like table side pouring and just some super cool stuff. So we're going to announce it on social probably here in the next week. So stay tuned, but I'm super excited to showcase some of what they're working on.
I'm excited. Hopefully I'll get an invite, an email maybe about this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for joining us. Real quick, I want to give you another plug here. If you're not following Chelsea, business page is at ConsultMent. I'm going to put your personal page in there as well, but I think it's in your name tag down there. And consultmentaz.com. We'll throw it in the comments. Thank you so much. This was a fun conversation. It went off the rails, and I'm surprised still that we haven't seen a cat head floating behind Adam Ledford.
I think he's fallen asleep at this point. Yeah. My chicken wings are good. They will knock you out.
It's called a cat nap, Adam.
I wasn't going to take the low-hanging fruit, Brett.
That was the obvious one, Brett. You're better than that.
Thank you guys, as always, for being here and joining us for this episode. Chelsea, hang tight. We'll talk to you for a second after we end the show, but thank you for joining us. Cheers.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining us.
Our pleasure.